So, there was this presidential speech recently, and by all accounts, it was different. It was short, it was forceful, and it was surprisingly disciplined. But one particular analysis suggests the real story wasn't just what was said. Nope, it was the whole strategy behind how it was delivered and why. So let's break down this really fascinating take on political messaging. Okay, so here's the puzzle, right? You've got a president who's kind of known for going off the cuff, talking for a while, and he delivers this super tight, 20-minute, completely on-script speech to the whole country. It felt a lot more like a campaign kickoff than a typical address, and that makes you wonder, what was the actual strategic goal here? All right, so the first part of this analysis tackles a really big problem for any campaign. How do you make sure everyone is paying attention? And the theory for how they did it is, well, it's a little cynical, to be honest. I mean, think about it from their point of view. The big news networks, they don't have to carry a standard political speech live. So if you're trying to launch your main message, how do you make absolutely sure you get the most eyeballs with no filter? This theory says you need a pretty clever trick. So here's the alleged move. The source speculates that rumors were allowed to fly around, rumors about some huge announcement, maybe even something as serious as going to war. This creates this national sense of, oh my gosh, what's about to happen? It basically forces the networks to go live. But then, instead of a war declaration, you get a perfectly polished 20-minute campaign ad. It's a way to kind of hijack the airwaves to get your core message out. Okay, so that's the how. Now let's dig into the what, the actual content of the speech. And according to this analysis, the message itself faced two really big communication challenges. Because, even if everyone's watching, the message still has to hit home. And here they are, the two big hurdles. First, you've got the old, I inherited a mess line. The source points out that, look, whether it's true or not this time around, people have heard that exact same line from the last three presidents. It's a message that's just kind of worn out. And second, there's the claim that the economy is amazing. Even if the numbers look good, it just smacks right into this wall of public perception, where for a lot of people, it just doesn't feel better yet. And this right here, this brings us to the absolute core argument of this entire analysis. In politics today, the fight isn't just about changing reality or reading off a list of facts. It's about winning the battle for perception. The person behind this analysis actually draws a line to this famous marketing book from the 80s called Positioning. The whole idea in that book, which was revolutionary at the time, was that companies could win not by actually changing their product, but by changing how you and I perceive their product compared to everyone else. This quote just nails it. It basically crystallizes the whole theory. The central idea is this. It really doesn't matter if you can prove something with a chart or a statistic if people don't feel it, if what they perceive is different, then for all intents and purposes, that perception is their reality. You know the perfect example of this? The Cola Wars. Coca-Cola was the real thing, right? They were the original, the established leader. Pepsi knew they couldn't win just by being another brown fizzy drink. So what did they do? They changed the perception. They became the choice of a new generation. The cola didn't change, but the feeling around it did, and it totally worked. That's the exact same idea being applied to politics. So let's look at the hard numbers for a second. On one hand, you have the statistical reality. The data clearly shows that inflation has dropped a lot. It went from a peak of around 9% all the way down to 2.7%. On paper, that's a massive success. But then, and this is a huge but, you have the perception. Even with that big drop in inflation, polls show that only about 27% of people feel like their personal finances are getting any better. And that's the whole ballgame right there, that huge gap between the data and what people are feeling in their gut. The source even notes that to win an election, that number needs to be way over 40%. So, how do you fix that gap between the data and the feeling? Well, the analysis suggests you have to connect your policies to the stuff people feel every single day. Let's take a look at how the speech tried to do exactly that by linking the housing crisis directly to immigration. The argument laid out here is pretty straightforward. It goes like this. When you have, say, 10 to 15 million new people coming into the country in just a few years, they all need a place to live. That creates a huge surge in demand for houses and apartments, but the supply of those homes isn't growing nearly as fast. The result? Prices for rent and for buying a house go up for everybody. It's an attempt to give a very direct, tangible reason for why your rent bill is so high. And that's the bottom line of that whole argument. It's that these two things are fundamentally connected.
You can't really fix the crazy high cost of housing that people are feeling every month until you deal with the population pressure that, according to this argument, is one of the main things driving it. Okay, so finally, the analysis points to one specific event coming up that could totally change both the economic reality and, probably more importantly, public perception.
The analysis zeroes in on just one single, incredibly powerful appointment: the next chair of the Federal Reserve. This person literally holds the keys to interest rates. Their decisions directly affect everything from your mortgage payment to your car loan. They could either speed up financial relief for millions of people, or they could make that financial pinch feel even tighter. The source basically sees this as a huge turning point, one way or the other. So when you look at this entire breakdown, from the theory about hijacking the airwaves to bringing up the cola wars, it all really boils down to this one core belief about how politics works now. And it leaves us with a pretty big question. In the fight for power today, what really matters more? Is it changing reality, or is it mastering the art of changing perception?